A sealed document sat on King Charles's desk. It had 3 names on the access list to the Royal Trust. Last month, someone asked to be the 4th. By evening, that door had closed in a way it wouldn't open again. I'm Edmund Hale, and what happened in between would cost a family more than anyone anticipated. The allegations Meghan has made are simply not true. Her account doesn't match what palace records show. That's the official statement. Yet she had entered that room believing she still had leverage. She didn't. According to royal insiders, William looked at her across a polished table and said no, not later, not through another channel, just no. His voice was quiet. That made it worse. Within hours, he walked Charlotte into the trust's inner proceedings himself. That single gesture, a father escorting his daughter past a closed door, turned a private refusal into the image every news outlet would lead with that evening. This wasn't about paperwork anymore. It was about who controlled what came next for a young princess. The moment that changed everything happened weeks earlier. William was at Windsor for a private family reception, the kind of room where everyone is supposed to feel safe. Meghan asked a direct question. Should Charlotte's trust position stay entirely controlled by William and Catherine, or should voices like hers have influence over how the princess's future was shaped? The room didn't erupt. No one shouted, but palace records confirm what happened next. Insiders circulated details about the trust's timing through unofficial channels before Meghan even raised the question publicly. Specific details, dates, access protocols, someone had been talking. Someone had leaked information that was supposed to stay inside locked doors. That intelligence reached William's team on a Friday afternoon. An advisor prepared a summary document. It detailed what had circulated, where it had circulated, and most importantly, when. The timing showed the leak had happened before Meghan's question, which meant she either knew something she shouldn't have known, or someone close to her had made sure she did. By Sunday morning, William had read it twice. The second reading took longer. By Sunday evening, he had made his decision. If you want to know what William discovered that changed his mind completely, subscribe, because it's the part Meghan never anticipated. Catherine watched her husband read the advisor's account. The first time, he looked troubled. The second time, something hardened in his face. He wasn't wondering anymore whether he needed to protect Charlotte. He was calculating how far that protection had to extend, how public it had to be, how final. The confrontation happened in a room with no witnesses except Catherine, a polished table, a window overlooking the grounds. According to sources close to the family, William refused Meghan's request in a voice that was low, controlled, and absolute. Not angry, colder than anger. Something moved in his chest, a shift from debate to decision. He told her the trust couldn't become a place where influence was traded, that once a door opened under pressure, it would open again and again. He said Charlotte's future had to be protected from that, not from her, from the mechanism itself. Catherine watched Meghan absorb this. She had expected a careful royal answer, the kind that leaves room to push back later, code switching into something softer once the cameras left the room. She got something else. She got resolve, the kind that doesn't soften. Humiliation moved across Meghan's face because she realized in that moment that William had already decided. The conversation wasn't happening to reach a decision. It was happening to communicate one that had already been made. Meghan pushed back with one last question. Did Charlotte even understand what was being decided in her name? William looked at her across the table. The silence lasted 3 seconds, long enough that Meghan realized the answer wasn't coming in words. Then he said his daughter understood loyalty better than most adults in that room. He stood. He walked to collect Charlotte himself. He didn't ask an aide. He didn't send a lawyer. He left Meghan standing alone. Once he closed the door behind them, the palace machinery shifted into motion. Palace staff received revised instructions by end of day. Lists were revised within hours. Briefing schedules were updated. Names that had appeared on access rosters for months suddenly didn't. Private channels that had been open, emails copied to her, advance copies of documents, invitations to preparatory calls. Those channels sealed shut. Meghan's connection to any future trust discussion was erased. Not postponed, not delayed, gone. Palace access is never just about rooms or invitations. It's about whether your voice gets heard in decisions, whether you're consulted, whether you matter. Her voice had been removed from that machinery. And once a voice is removed, reinstating it requires someone to actively add it back. No one was going to do that. The Duke of Sussex heard about it within a day and contacted William directly. Multiple calls across multiple days. None of them changed anything. William's silence was as complete as his refusal had been. His silence told Meghan what William's refusal had only suggested, The doors she believed she controlled had already locked behind her. She had thought she had leverage through Harry. She didn't. When Harry finally stopped calling, when he understood there was no point, that's when Meghan realized. There was no negotiation coming. There was no second channel. There was no version of this story where the answer changed. Catherine found Charlotte in her room that evening. The princess was sitting on her bed, still in her clothes from the day, quiet and thinking about something no young princess should have to think about. Catherine sat beside her without saying anything at first. Sometimes silence is what a child needs. Then Catherine asked what she remembered most about that day. Not the arguments she must have heard echoing through the house. Not Meghan's name. Not the tension Catherine could feel in every room. Charlotte looked up at her mother and said, her father's hand in hers, the weight of it, the way he held it. That one detail made Catherine understand something she hadn't fully grasped before. Not in all the weeks of private meetings and advisor reports and documents. This wasn't about excluding someone. It was about including her daughter, pulling her in, making her feel protected in a way that mattered. That night, William told Catherine exactly why he had refused. He said it clearly. Allowing confusion around their daughter's future would have damaged her more than any family fracture ever could. He didn't pretend it had been easy. He understood the cost. He knew it had deepened wounds that might not heal for years. He knew Meghan would feel rejected. He knew Harry would feel shut out. He understood all of that. But his daughter's future couldn't stay open to pressure from outside the family simply to keep the peace inside it. That was the choice he had made. That was the cost he had accepted. And from his perspective, looking at Charlotte in that moment, there was no other choice that mattered more. By morning, the photograph had already traveled globally through every news outlet, every social media platform, every royal commentary channel. William walking Charlotte into the trust, while Meghan remained outside. The image was clean, clear, impossible to misinterpret. Supporters saw a father protecting his child from outside pressure. Critics saw a royal using his institutional position to lock a door permanently against someone he decided was a threat. Commentators spent hours debating whether this was necessary or cruel, proportionate or excessive. Both readings were true. Both were incomplete. The image didn't contain the weeks of circulating details. It didn't contain William reading that advisor's account twice. It didn't contain the machinery behind the door, or the calculation that had come before. It just contained a man and his daughter disappearing behind a door. Catherine felt the exhaustion behind William's calm exterior as the day went on. She watched him move through the household, watched him appear in photographs, watched him keep his expression level and his voice measured, but she could see what the public couldn't: the weight. The public didn't see the advisor's report or the circulating details or the private conversations that had led to this. They saw one image, a prince choosing where his daughter's protection would begin. And once that image existed in the minds of millions, it couldn't be unseen. It couldn't be reframed. It couldn't be apologized away. Meghan couldn't unhear the word no. She couldn't unsee William walking past her into that room with Charlotte's hand in his. She couldn't pretend she didn't understand what it meant. The refusal had stopped being words. It had become action. It had become a list with her name crossed off. It had become a room where she would never be consulted again. That's what power looks like when it's exercised quietly. Not announcements, not statements, not angry confrontations. Just a door closing and staying closed. William's refusal carried three distinct forces at once. He was acting as a father who loved his child and wanted to shield her from adult conflict. He was acting as the Prince of Wales, aware of his institutional power and how to use it. And he was acting as the man responsible for his daughter's future role in a monarchy that demands you shield the next generation from pressure and leverage. He understood something critical that Meghan apparently didn't. If a door opens once under emotional force, others will push it open again. The mechanism doesn't stop at one person. Catherine understood it too. That's why she accepted the cost of the refusal. That's why she stood silent in that room while William spoke. Meghan faced a new reality overnight. Proximity to the monarchy couldn't be demanded once trust broke. That's not how royal families work. She had wanted influence. She had wanted access. She had wanted a voice in decisions about Charlotte's life, her future role, her education, her place in the trust. William had made it clear that none of that was going to happen. Broken confidence changes everything. There was no path forward because there was no path. The door was sealed. The list was finalized. The machinery had moved on. And the man who sealed it had already moved on to protecting his daughter. So here's what stays with me about this entire moment. It wasn't loud. It wasn't cruel in the way cruelty usually announces itself. With anger, with raised voices, with visible emotion. It was a father saying no, so completely, so finally, that his daughter felt safe for the first time in months. She could stop wondering. She could stop worrying that her mother's name might come up in conversations about her future. It was resolved, but it was also a family fracture that may never close. William and Meghan won't reconcile over this. Harry and William won't find their way back easily. So which version are you holding on to? The protection or the exclusion? Tell me in the comments.